Okay, Berserk 386 is here. Let's go. Okay, on the cover image, we have Griffith standing in front of us. We are kind of looking up at him and he has his hands stretched out. And there's this light or these strands of light that are falling through his hands, which kind of making look like a puppeteer, which is what he is since he is stringing the world around on his whims. Now, a curious part about this cover image that I did not instantly notice is that as I just made this puppeteer reference about Griffith, right? Now, we are looking up at Griffith, so we are under the strings of this puppeteer, who is a Griffith. But, flying way above, high up in the sky, beyond Griffith, is the figure of Zodd, which, again seems to be a foreshadowing to me of Zodd's eventual betrayal of Griffith. And another thing that needs to be said about this stretched out hand with this ray of light falling in between it is that it is reminiscent of the hand that touched Ganishka right before that world transformed. And so we are kind of reminded that these are the hands that bear light, the light of God. And so there's this double metaphor at play here. He bears the light of God and he is also the puppeteer. Now next, I don't know if this is the name of the chapter itself, but it says either take everything into your hands on the cover image or seize it all. Now I should remind you beforehand that these are just the raw leaks, so we don't have any dialogue. So take everything I say with a pinch of salt. So the chapter begins with Griffith standing in this great hall, perhaps that same hall in which he decided that he will go east. Now Griffith is standing far into the distance and we suddenly see a pair of hands step into the scene. It is Casca. She's approaching him. It hurts to approach him, her brand bleeds, but she does so nonetheless. She clutches her chest as her brand bleeds and she has this dazed, tired look to her face, like she may faint from the exertion of it all. Then on page 3, we see that Shirky has finally made it to Falconia. She hovers above the city in her astral form, gazing at the various structures and the people mulling about in the city. Then suddenly, she senses something or someone, and we are shown that someone also senses her at the same time. It is Sonia, who turns and looks up at the sky. After that, in the next page, we see Sonia and Mule, who is standing with her, looking at the sky. Now, we don't have any dialogue, so we can't say what exactly happens here, but they exchange a few words and then Sonia walks away. Did she actually sense Shirky, or is she pretending not to have sensed her? We don't know. On the next page, we see her and Mule walk up a spiraling staircase and go meet Griffith in this same great hall that we saw at the start of the chapter. Mule kneels down in front of Griffith and the page ends with Sonia smiling, looking at Griffith. On the next page, there's some exchange of dialogue between Griffith and Mule. Now, Sonia, who's also kneeling down now, has a curious expression on her face. She looks sort of serious, which is, unlike her character, as she stares down at the floor. Now, on account of the next page, we get kind of a sense about what is going on here. It looks like what is happening here is that Mule is giving him a report of things. I say this because in this page, we are shown a panel of refugees on foot in their carriages walking in a direction which is away from the page, right? They are walking into the mountains. Perhaps it is to suggest that these people are heading away from Falconia and to the east. And why do I say that? Because at the bottom of the page, we are shown a lineup composed of Silat, Tapasa, Daiba, Serpico, Mustache Knight Azan, and the Kushan and Bakiraka soldier standing and depicted in an ominous light. This is Mule's perspective of things, most likely. On the next page, Sonia opens her mouth as if to contradict what Mule just said, and Mule and Griffith continue the exchange. Then Sonia gets up, stretches, and Mule looks at her disconcertedly as Sonia says something as she flips her hair, and Mule seems to contradict or shout at her. The exchange continues and this time it is Griffith who speaks and the page ends with Mule realizing something or thinking something to himself. Then on the next page, we have this curious panel. I'll try to describe it the best I can. Griffith is speaking, but as Sonia and Mule are in front of him, the ground beneath their feet has somewhat disappeared. And on top of that, Griffith's figure is superimposed onto the figure of the world spiral tree, as if to, suggest that they are related, one and the same or something. The page ends with Sonia and Mule listening intently to Griffith. Now, whatever he is saying is very important because they have a surprised look to their face. On the next page, we see Sonia and Mule walking away from Griffith as their conversation ends. Sonia notices Casca from the corner of her eyes, and man, does she have a very disdainful look directed at Casca. She approaches Casca and says a few words to her, and she clearly has some jealousy or hatred directed at Casca. After that, on the next page, we see a panel of Griffith, and he has his hands on his chest, and there are panels that suggest some internal dialogue. It gives me the same feeling when the Moonlight Child interfered and saved Casca at the Hill of Swords. Now, perhaps Griffith here is thinking the same thing once more about whether or not his heart will sway. Then on the next page, we are given a bird's eye view of this great hall, and Griffith is approaching Casca. Casca looks tense and surprised, and as Griffith approaches her, her brand bleeds more blood. And then we see this dark goo coming out of the ground behind Griffith's feet. The page ends with a front view of Griffith as this dark goo springs up from behind him, and he has a look of surprise on his face. Griffith turns, and now there is more of this black goo. Casca's brand hurts even more, and she clutches her chest in pain. Griffith stares intently at this dark goo. Then his eyes widen and 4 sets of eyes form in this goo. We know where this is going, don't we? It's the 4 god hands. They seem to be in the same form that they had during the Conviction Tower, but with a whole lot of detail and features visible. Then there's a close-up of Griffith's eye, and the page ends with a flash of light. It looks like the god hands might just have tried to make a move at Casca. I say this because Griffith uses his cape to block their path to Casca. It looks like the god hands might want her, to use her, to kill her, we don't know. And Casca is standing behind, leaning on the wall. She's either lost her consciousness or is very close to doing so. On the next page, we see all the god hands take their turn and say something to Griffith as he holds his cape blocking the way to Casca. After that, we see the god hands continue their dialogue, though this time they look more like their Conviction Arc incarnation. Then Griffith reaches his hands to them as he looks at them intently, but just then this black goo loses its form and fades away. On the next page, Casca collapses to her knees as the maids in charge of her come rushing in to attend to her. Then in the next page, Griffith walks away from Casca as the maids lead away from him. And whatever the god hand said is very likely ringing in Griffith's ears. And that's where the chapter ends. Holy shit, I can't wait to read this when the English translations are out. Great chapter, I would say. I will be back with an analysis video as soon as the translations are out. See you next time, the next video, fellow struggler.